gents. We are back for another album review. And for this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from Swedish metal visionaries, Avatar. The band's new album, Dance, Devil Dance, will be released on February 17th on Black Waltz Records. So, album number 9 from Avatar.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I know. Fucking unbelievable. Which follows up their 2020 album, Hunter Gatherer. We reviewed that album. Both had mixed feelings about the album. Safe to say.
I think Avatar are a band that demand mixed feelings.
Yeah, probably. I think from what I remember, we both quite enjoyed the first half of the album.
Yeah.
And then it kind of started to kind of wane as it went on.
Yes.
You always hear bands say, this is our best album yet, Duncan.
What? I mean, we would like to think. Otherwise, what's the point of releasing it? Well, no, I don't know if Metallica say that.
Nah,
I think
probably
Metallica just say new album. I think that's literally. I don't think they ever got that. You know, there's like this is the best thing we've ever done, because instinctually we'd call bullshit on it. But Avatar are a different kettle of fish, Dave.
True. Well, they say this is their best album yet, Duncan. It is Avatar at their most laser-focused and most razor-sharp. There is no BS, no extra fat. Every track is a weapon and has a purpose. It's all in the title, as this album is their angriest, horniest, and most spiritual release all at once. It's a must-hear. With grit and sheer force of will, they made the music the only way metal ever should be done. Modern metal too often becomes homogenized by everyone using the same drum samples and presets for guitars.
Did Kyle write this present?
Yeah, I think he might have. Dance Devil Dance is the sound of our bodies in motion and nothing else. It sounds hard because we play hard. It's loud because we are loud. Every band knows the challenge of capturing the rage of a stage performance on tape. This time we succeeded. The album bleeds black blood, bludgeoned by the road. Dance Devil Dance was recorded in the Swedish wilderness, far away from all the perceived glamour of the big city and modern studios. Jay Ruston, who has worked with Anthrax, Mr. Bungle, Crowbot, Stone Sour, Amon Amarth and Uriah Heep, has returned as producer. He first worked with the band when he mixed Hail the Apocalypse, a role he reprised on Feathers and Flesh before taking the wheel as producer on Avatar Country and Hunter Gatherer. No extra personnel were wanted nor needed. They stayed together for a month, eating, sleeping and breathing Dance Devil Dance, just the 6 of them. Okay, Duncan. So,
Okay, Dave.
well, as I said, we both reviewed Hunter Gatherer. I think we landed on a 3 out of 5, as far as I remember, for that album.
That sounds about right for me.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Did Dance Devil Dance work any better for you, my man? What did you think?
I think this is a better album.
Oh, well, here we go.
I'll put that forward. However, I still have issues.
Okay.
Avatar are a really interesting band in that I think when all the component parts come together in a fashion that I enjoy, I think it's fucking great.
Right.
And then they'll do something, and when they do a particular thing, and it sometimes is vocally, I'm afraid to say, I kind of get a bit, I do the cringy face. Like, and if you search like cringe US Office GIF, I kind of do that, kind of your face goes all cringy in that. There's no doubt there's talent here, right? There's no doubt, like, at all. There's also a degree of cheese about them which I can't quite get away from. Like, so, like, their opening song, Dance Devil Dance, sets the stage. It's thumping. Production on this, we'll get that out of the way, it's huge. They sound fucking massive. Everything's nice, clear, audible, you know, just like bright, vibrant, heavy, punchy. It's got a modern metal sound. You know what I mean? This is almost arena rock, modern metal sound.
Yeah.
You imagine it playing at a stadium, big crowd, everyone getting down with it. Like it.
It's big, but it's got a kind of natural feel to it as well, which is really cool.
At no point do I feel like someone has pressed a button to boost something.
100%.
You know what I mean? It just sounds like when I say like arena rock, like when you go and see arena rock, so like the cliche of the stack of Marshall amps.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like. It all sounds like it's coming through amps, and no one's fucking with it. Like, they want to get louder, they put an amp on top of an amp. Like, it's literally turn it to 11. It's that sort of sound. Like, they're walking the talk there in terms of moving away from preset sims, etc., etc. And that works across everything. Everything just has a really kind of homely, organic feel. It just sounds fucking huge. And also, they have riffs for days. Like, as a band, they seem to be able to just churn out groove riffs whenever they fucking want. Yeah, they're a bit cliche at times, a bit thrashy, groovy, kind of safe at times is a word I would use. But I don't necessarily know if that's what you're listening to Avatar for. Don't know if they're the band that you're like that. Oh, can't wait to hear all the grooves and riffs in Avatar. Ultimately, they're a band that live and die on their vocals. I think that's the quality that brings people in. The vocalist has a tone, if we didn't mention it before, which somewhere exists between like really old school kind of 70s, 80s metal and the kind of modern kind of 2000s era. So it sits somewhere between like Judas Priest and Stone Sour. Overall, it's somewhere in between those. Yeah. And he's, as a frontman, it's fucking all energy all the time. And it has the softer moments, and the dude can certainly like carry a tune and all the rest. But then you get moments where things get the quirkiness that I was talking about, where the band's eccentric personality starts to shine through. And those bits don't always work for me, right? Like, there are certain bits where it reminded me, actually, he's like a more arena rock version of the vocalist, the front man from Death Rage.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Death Rage vocalist has like a tone where it's like a kind of shouty melody tone that he does. But he's always kind of quirky. He does like quirky wee things. Kind of Avatar's in the same spectrum of that vocally, except a lot more conventional and a lot more commercial. But you get tracks which, like I say, Dance Devil Dance, very conventional, very thumping, but like raw. You go into Chimp Mosh Pit. Once again, it's all energy, all bimsing, and you kind of feel like you're going along with it nicely. And then I think it's track 5 or track 6 where things become a bit ooga chaka, ooga chaka. You know what I mean? And I was just like, this is what happened the last time. And I started getting like flashbacks of a back half of an album which just went a wee bit not off the rails, but just didn't feel focused. And the first half felt focused. And I'll be honest with you, this album started to do a bit of the same. Now, I think it pulls itself back in together. I think the last 4 songs, from Clouds Dipped in Chrome through to Violence No Matter What, bring it back in and hit a really, really strong stride. But I genuinely think, like, from track, I think it must be 5, 5, 6 and 7 are all just a wee bit kind of non-memorable. I think it opens memorable, and I think it closes memorable. I think there's some stuff in the middle that just feel a bit... It's not generic, that's not fair, and it's also a bad thing to say. I just don't think it lacks the same interest as the it's like having a sandwich with a remarkably plain filling, where the bread on the outside is this lovely brioche that's been, like fucking smothered in some like really, really decadent sort of like fucking like chocolate syrup or something, and then on top of that someone's put like a slice of ham. You're just like, no, you were doing so well. And that's where I landed with it. I don't think it's... The thing about it is, I think this is a better album. I think the flow overall works better. I think it doesn't maybe go as quirky as the previous one, but it's still in there. And then it got me thinking, like, I've never seen them live, but I have seen pictures of them, and they have a theatrical look to them. Yeah. Which makes me wonder, is that part of the charm? Is that the band? Like, does the band have to have those moments of kind of quasi, and I would argue, lazy avant-garde, like, sprinkles in them, because the live show accentuates those things that works better in that setting? All I know is in an album, it starts off really well. It kind of loses itself a little bit. It redeems itself by the end. It's got guest appearance by Lizzie Hale on the last track. She's fucking great. She's got great vocal tone. Did not know how it was going to work on this, but Violence No Matter What is a fucking great closer. So I thought that all hung together. And yeah, tracks like Hazmat Suit, for example, or I think Hazmat Suit and Clouds Dip and Chrome are the ones that pulled me back in from The Dirt I'm Buried In, and specifically Do You Feel in Control, which I'm sure is the Ooga Chaka one. So yeah, I enjoyed it more. I still don't think I'm an Avatar fan though. I think that's the... But they've got 9 albums. So the previous album, I really liked half of the previous album, and I really like a good half of this album. So, you know, I would go and see them live, because I think they could do it, and they sound like a band that like have all the spots pointed out for where they headbang together and where the crowd interact and all the rest. They've got all that on par. I just think at times their eccentric manners sometimes get away in what they really actually do well, which is, I think they write good old foot stomping, like modern metal songs. I think they're very, very, very good at that. I would like to see some more of that. The other thing is, I think vocally his technique gets... When it's pure melody, it's really interesting. When it's more aggro melody, it's really good. But it has a kind of shouty tone that to me always sounds like it's just a tiny little bit out of key. Never really sits perfect on it. It's shouty, it's not supposed to, but I don't know. It just kind of always makes me go, like, you can do the other style, just do the other style. So yeah, it's a bit all over the place, but then I think it's a bit all over the place, if I'm honest. And I also think if you're a fan of the last album, then you'll like this album. I don't think they've not reinvented the wheel here. It just kind of, it sounds like a lot of what they were doing before, except they've maybe stripped out some of what wasn't working, where they could have stripped out a little bit more.
Okay.
Curious about you, because I think I honestly can't remember how it went down, but I actually think I was slightly more forgiving of the previous album than you were. I might be wrong about that. People might like link us to that video and say, "No, Duncan, you fucking hated it."
That was that was quite early on. We reviewed that. It was like before video. It was just audio of our voices back then.
Yeah. So I'm curious, because, like I say, I don't think they've moved that far along that you're going to be walking in here going 5 stars.
It's interesting actually, because I have a lot of the same feelings that you have about this album, but on different songs. So it's maybe that's how they pull people in.
Maybe that's how they hit people in. If you hit everything,
the songs are appealing to different people. I think
it's
weird. I do think this album is more consistent than the last album. There's more on this album that I enjoyed than on Hunter Gatherer. And as always, it's unquestionably Avatar. Like, what I think is really cool about this band is you could play a song randomly by Avatar in a room and you could tell that it's Avatar.
Oh, 100%.
You'd be like, oh fuck, that's Avatar. They have personality, like loads of personality. And that comes probably predominantly from the vocals of Johannes, which are quirky, quite off the wall. But also, I can hear a bit in the riffs as well. The riffs are quite quirky as well. They're groovy, and then they've also got that kind of more kind of theatrical side as well. And I think that's a great attribute to have. Like, there's a lot of characterless bands out there, Duncan, but Avatar.
Yeah, being memorable is not a bad thing.
Not at all.
Let's
not at all. Avatar are definitely one of the more memorable ones. And again, on this release, it's flowing with individuality. You can hear their personality coming through. What I think works better on this release is the more kind of direct approach they've taken on a lot of tracks. I do agree. I think there is less fat on this album. They've reeled in some of the kind of experimental weirdness, not at all, but a little bit of it, and just they've written a few more kind of more to the point songs, to be honest. It's 11 tracks long. It's about 42 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, it's not long. It's not long.
So it's funny. It's one track longer than the last album, but it's a shorter album than the last album, runtime wise. So you can see that straight away. They've kind of just shortened it down. These are more kind of like 3.5 minute tracks. There's a lot more of that kind of length than on Hunter Gatherer, and I think that benefits the album. Tracks like Chimp Mosh, which is big in riffs, big in grooves, or Do You Feel in Control, which has like these big killer verses and then a chorus that kind of gets stuck in your head. These tracks are kind of short, sharp, and memorable. And I feel like Avatar have found their love for metal again on this album. Like, there's a ton of these tracks that just worship the riff and the groove, and I really enjoyed that about it, because I'm a big groove guy. I love my groove metal, so I was enjoying that side of it. The other thing that's something that Avatar are good at is memorable moments. I think there are a lot of sing-along choruses. The title track is a great sing-along, and you'll totally get behind it. Is it Gotta Wanna Riot?
That's the one that I called Duka Chaka one.
Yeah, I quite liked that. I thought it was quite quirky. It was groovy. It
just seems like the intro to like an 80s sitcom.
Yeah.
Like, I
know, but I kinda
I'm still
liked it.
singing it, so it obviously did its job.
And it's got cowbell, so I was like, yes, I am in. This feels fucking awesome. It's
such a mark for a cowbell.
I just felt fun, and like I just felt like it's got energy. Like, I could totally see fans getting right behind this and live shows and stuff as well. Kind of like yourself, there are a couple of what the fuck moments on this album as well. Some good, some not so much. The first one, I was going to mention this track initially when like I was listening to the album last week. There's a track called "The Dirt I'm Buried In," right?
Yeah.
First couple of listens, I was like, oh, I'm just not feeling this at all, because it's got this weird kind of like disco kind of vibe, disco meets metal kind of vibe. Like, it's weird. It's like when I hear it, it reminds me of, what is the song? What's the song? I say, don't you know? You say,
Take Me Out.
Take Me Out, right? Take Me Out.
Yeah.
Whoever that, Franz Ferdinand.
Right? Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of. When I hear it, it's got that kind of like rhythm and bounce to it. It reminds me of that. And at first I was like, I don't like this. This is just like, they've went kind of way off piece there. I'm not really sure. It felt a little bit out of place, but it's actually grown on me. Like, I was listening to it again today, and I was like, I found myself kind of like nodding along. I was like, wait a minute, I'm starting to like this actually. It's not too bad. He's also got like he does this weird kind of like Pete Steele thing as well later on the track, where he goes like spoken word and very like low and baritone, which was like, what the fuck. The tracks towards the end were the ones I was kind of like, I'm not too sure.
Wow, right. So you flowed into the full quirkiness in the middle, where I was like that. No, let's just keep it a little bit more conventional, and by the conventional endings too conventional for you.
Between us, this is a 5-star album, basically, what we're saying. Clouds Dripped in Chrome, I was like, it kicks in, it's like blast beats and like more a kind of deathy kind of vibe, and the riffs, which I wasn't really expecting, but then they balance it out with some more kind of like mid-paced grooves. It's a cool track, but I just felt like it was kind of lacking something. It was just that the hook wasn't there for me. Hazmat Suit was the same. I was kind of like, it's got the energy.
Like Hazmat Suit.
I like it's got the double bass drums for the heaviness, but the chorus for me was a little bit underwhelming. Track 10, Train, I think it's called. Yeah. I think you're either going to love this or you're going to hate it. It's like the slowed down, like Johnny Cash kind of esque ballad of the album.
I think he pulls it off. I think he pulls off better than that.
I love that. I want to listen to that right now. This train track has got like
train track has a train on it, Duncan.
This track called Train has some interesting peaks of like heaviness throughout it, but I found it kind of skippable, if I'm honest. It was the one I was like, yeah. However, I do think they pull it back on the last track. I think Violence No Matter What is a good closer. Like, great chemistry between Johannes and Lizzie Hale, and I feel like the vocal lines, they'll work really well in a live show again. Like, it feels like a good conclusion to the album. Overall, I think this is better than Hunter Gatherer. I do think there's more quality on this album, and these guys, they can write a hook for sure. But then there are moments where I just like switch off or something just doesn't click for me totally. I think out of the 11 tracks, there was probably about 7 that I was like, yeah, I could dig that. And then there were 4 that I was like, not too sure. So again, it has moments that are really good. And then there are moments where I'm just like, no, that's not for me.
They sound huge. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like when you're listening to it, they sound huge, and it's not fake huge. It's not Five Finger Death Punch huge. You know what I mean? They actually sound like legitimately like a band that could like play on like a download bill on a main stage.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? That's how big they sound. It's bizarre. It's really, really, really bizarre.
So, what would you score it? What would you score Dance Devil Dance?
Well, I'm glad that you could remember I gave the previous one a 3. This is better, so I'd give it a 3.5. I still think they have things that don't work for me. I think that's personal choice on me that they don't work. Like I say, I think if you're a fan of Avatar, you're gonna like this album.
Yeah.
And I think they do like walk the talk of what they said. This feels more focused. Definitely has a lot of the nonsense I didn't like from the previous album gone. It's just they still are doing things that I'm sure they really enjoy, which is weird because like I like quirky bands. I really like quirky bands. I think their level of quirk feels a bit more conventional and less quirky to me. You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, it's disco beats.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's like in a world where metal bands didn't do disco beats, that would be really bizarre. But like plenty of metal bands have done disco beats, so it's a quirky thing they've done, but it's kind of a conventional, safe quirky thing. Yeah. You know, if that makes sense. It's no dog fashion disco where like you're gonna get like some of the weirdest fucking shit ever. So yeah, 3.5. I do think there's a couple of songs in this I would happily come back and listen to for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, 3.5 was my score as well. I do feel like they have improved on this release for me, like compared to the last one. I definitely, and they've got that individuality down to a T. Like I think, as I said, you could definitely tell this band out from a crowd. There's some little blips here and there that weren't personally to my particular taste, and a couple of tracks that don't have the same quality as others, but. Still, there's still a lot to enjoy here. Great production, and there's a good handful of memorable moments on this release. So 3.5 from myself as well. So Avatar's new album, Dance Devil Dance, will be released on February 17th on Black Waltz Records. Check them out. If you're checking this out on YouTube, there's links below. Let us know what you think. Stick some comments in. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions. That is the review of Avatar's Dance Devil Dance.